Hi everyone, this is Rachel from the Shades of Orange. Today I want to recommend audiobooks. I have done 2 videos recommending audiobooks before, so I'm going to link those down below if you want even more recommendations. This video is intended to highlight books that I enjoyed even more because I read them as audios. So I think if you are looking to pick them up, I highly recommend choosing the audiobook format. I enjoyed the narration on all of these, and I really think that it enhanced my reading experience. First, I have to recommend the first book in the Iron Druid Chronicles. That is Hounded by Hearne. This is an urban fantasy series about a 2,000-year-old druid who exists in a world where all the gods are real, so the Christian gods, the Norse gods, and the Roman gods, etc. And this book is a lot of fun. I appreciate that it's urban fantasy that isn't really heavy on the romance aspect. And I have to recommend the audiobook because the narrator, Luke Daniels, is amazing. He tells the story with great humor. His inflection is fantastic. And everyone who has listened to this knows that the reason to listen to the audiobook is because Luke Daniels does an amazing job narrating the dog. And yes, the dog has a voice in this because he is speaking telepathically with the druid, and trust me, the narration is amazing. I could listen to the dog talk all day. It's so much fun, even if you don't read a lot of urban fantasy, because I usually don't. This is one you definitely need to pick up, and if you're going to read it as an audio. It was fantastic. It's the first in a series, and Luke Daniel narrates the whole thing, so if you enjoy the first one, you have tons more to listen to. Next, I have to recommend You by Kepnes. This is a suspenseful thriller told from the perspective of a stalker who is following this young woman. The story is told in second-person perspective, so he is constantly saying, you go here, you do this, and he's basically following this woman around, and the situation goes from bad to worse as he becomes obsessed with this girl and proceeds to do terrible things. It's so much fun. If you enjoy dark, creepy stories, this is definitely one to pick up. The book is narrated by Prince Hearne from Frozen, so that may not sound like the kind of narrator you would expect for this, but trust me, his voice works so well. This book was a lot of fun to listen to. It's a little bit dirty. His voice is super creepy, and this is a book that is enjoyable to read, but so much better when you're listening to the audiobook. So trust me, if you're going to pick it up, even if you don't read a lot of audiobooks, this is one you have to listen to as an audiobook. The experience is so fantastic, so highly recommend that one. Next, I need to recommend Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Of course, a book set in a futuristic dystopian world where there's virtual reality. The creator of this virtual reality has died and left his fortune to whoever can solve a mystery within the game and basically find the Easter eggs and win the fortune and control over this virtual world. The main character is obsessed with 80s culture and, of course, takes off on this adventure to solve this mystery. It is such a fun story, and the audiobook version is fantastic. I listened to this as a reread on audio and absolutely loved it. It's narrated by Will Wheaton, who of course was Wesley Crusher on Star Trek and is quite a popular geeky nerd in today, featured on The Big Bang Theory and on his own blog. So if you enjoy nerdy things, you must pick this up as audio. I think Will Wheaton is a very talented narrator and definitely has the right voice for such a fun, geeky story. Cannot recommend this one enough. I think everyone's heard of it, but even if you're looking to reread it, try the audiobook. It's fantastic. Next, I want to recommend Luckiest Girl Alive by Jessica Knoll. This book has been mistakenly marketed as a suspenseful thriller. It's actually more of a contemporary drama. This book is about a woman who is quite wealthy and is engaged to a rich man, has a very high-class, sophisticated life, but she has a lot of secrets from her past, and the story is told over 2 perspectives, one in the current day when she's getting interviewed about something that happened in her past, and then the other part of the story is told through flashbacks where we as the reader slowly get to find out what happened to this girl during her high school years. And this is actually a very dark, sad story. There are some trigger warnings for sexual assault. Essentially, the audiobook narrator has this fantastic, quippy voice that really makes the main character feel real and fleshed out, and it just works so well. I don't think I would have enjoyed this book as much if I'd read the physical copy, but reading it as an audiobook, the narrator just pushed it over the top. It's at times a very difficult book to read, but again, the narration adds a lot of enjoyment to it, and I would definitely recommend, if you've thought about picking this one up and haven't yet, read it as an audio. It's definitely worth trying out the experience that way. Finally, the last book I'm going to recommend is After I Do by Taylor Jenkins-Reid. This is a contemporary about a married couple who decide to take a break for a year and evaluate whether or not they still want to be married to each other. It sounds like a very sad story. In some ways it is, but in other ways it's a very thoughtful, interesting contemporary that really evaluates the reality of long-term relationships, how we change as we grow, and just what happens when we become so comfortable with each other. I would recommend this book to anyone who's in a long-term relationship, whether they're married or just in a long-term partnership, because this book is so relatable. Even if you're in a happy, healthy relationship, I think everyone can relate to something in this book. And I personally have to recommend it as an audio because I adored listening to it. I read all of Jenkins-Reid's books over the course of this last summer while I was biking around my city, and the experience was just so fantastic. The narrator has a wonderful voice, and I really feel like it's a book that's very easy to digest as an audiobook. It doesn't have a lot of world building. It's very straightforward and lends itself very well to the audiobook format. I just love this book and I thoroughly recommend it. The audio was fantastic, and I think that is a perfect way to consume it. So those are 5 audiobooks I would recommend listening to. If you're looking for even more recommendations, remember that I have 2 more videos which are linked down below. Let me know if you're thinking about picking up any of the books I mentioned. Otherwise, feel free to give me recommendations on audiobooks that you've enjoyed, that you think that I should read. I'm always looking for more. I listen to a ton of audiobooks, probably about 2 or 3 every single month, so I'm always on the prowl for new audios, new authors, new narrators, and I really enjoy listening to the best of the best. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you again soon. Okay, bye-bye.